Okay, مساء الخير. Good afternoon. Hello everyone. أنا أرم سجلمن الملحق الثقافي هنا في السفارة الأمريكانية في الجزائر. شكرا جزيلا على حضوركم اليوم. دونك كما تعرفوا الأمباساد توفر كثير من برامج التبادلات اللي تبت تقريبا 200 جزائري للولايات المتحدة كل عام للدراسة ولبرامج مختلفة للليدرشيب وإلى آخره. واليوم هنحضر على واحد من هذه البرامج اسمه the Humphrey Fellowship Program. Donc نقبلوا الابليكاسيون لهذا البرنامج وتقدروا إلى حديثه تحوصوا كل برنامج نتاعنا في الباج نتاعنا في الانترنت. دونك واش هو الهامفري بروجرام؟ دونك الهامفري بروجرام يبعث mid level professionals بمعنى المهنيين في وسط الكارير في للولايات المتحدة لمدة 10 شهور لجوج حاجات. دونك الدراسة graduate level study دونك c'est-à-dire ماسترز أو دكتورات في الجامعات الأمريكانية. ما كاش الدبلوم من هذا البرنامج، بس الناس اللي يشاركوا في البرنامج يستفيدوا من تجربة الأمريكان في المجال تاعهم، وهذه التجربة يمكنهم أن يستعملوه هنا في الجزائر كي يرجعوا. كما الضيف نتاعنا اليوم رايف مokretar-Karroubi اللي درس في جامعة كولورادو وجامعة الأمريكية أمريكان يونيفرسيتي في الهامفري فيلوشيب في عام 2000 حتى 2001. رايد هو دوك الخبير اقتصادي سينيور ايكونومست في الأمم المتحدة هنا في الجزائر العاصمة، وهو كان خبير اقتصادي للورلد بنك البنك العالمي، وهو كان عنده بزاف من مناصب إدارية في سورتو المؤسسات المصرفية الدولية. وهو أيضا ثاني الأستاذ في الخدمات المصرفية في بعض المدارس البزنس الدولية وداخلية، ويكتب للفاينانشال تايمز والآدم سميث انستيتيوت. وبالإضافة إلى كل ذلك هو تخرج من MIT واحد من أحسن الجامعات الأمريكية، وعنده ماسترز أيضا من Development Financing Institute of the Arab Maghreb في تونس. دونك أعطي الكلمة للرائف اللي هيشارك معنا تجربة نتاعه مع الهامفري فيلوشيب، وإذا عندكم أي سؤال تقدروا تكتبوا كل الأسئلة في الشات. دونك تفضل رائف وشكرا جزيلا على حضورك.
شكرا جزيلا آدم. So do you want me to do the talk in Arabic or French or English? Any preference?
We use all languages here, so whatever you're most comfortable in. It's a mix of Darija and English would be great.
D'accord. I will do it in English and Darija. So actually, it was a very interesting experience for me because I've been selected for the Humphrey Fellowship program back in 2000. I had more hair and I was younger at that time. And I was an economist, freshly graduated, and I was working for the central bank and private bank at the time in Algeria. And that was my first time in the US. And I was quite anxious because my English at the time was even worse than today. And it's a completely new experience. I wouldn't be able to know if I could understand everything, not only from a technical point of view, because the level of the curricula wasn't the same, and it's still not the same between Algeria, the US, and even Europe. And to be able to understand everything in English. That was stressful for me. But once there, it was so easy to find open-minded people. Everything was ready for me, even the blankets, the sheets, the manuals, sharing experience with previous Humphrey alumni who were there to explain to us what's the most difficult, what's challenging, what do you need to do to be part of the American environment, that it was very easy. And for the English, it was quite surprising because there are so many international students. I even think that there are more international students than American students in the big American universities. And guess what? Their English was not perfect neither. And so that was a relief for me, because I was telling myself, oh, I'm not the one making mistakes, so it's okay. And it is okay. So if you guys are asking yourself the same questions than me at the time, don't worry. You will be taken in charge. You will have a full English program. And let me tell you, the best way to learn English is not at the university. It's not at school. It's by practicing it on a daily basis, by being obliged to practice it because you don't have any other choice. And this is how it comes. And after a couple of months, your ear gets, used to different accents, and you get to understand almost everything. So this, as far as English is concerned. For my personal experience, the two main things that I keep until today beyond English, because it's an asset, is the huge network that you get to have overnight when you attend an American university and when you get to work in an international environment. Because right after, I was recruited by the World Bank as an international expert, and I stayed there for almost 20 years. The thing is that the network, not only of professors, of professionals in the field that you want to develop when you'll be there, but also the network of students and the network of Humphrey Fellows. We are still exchanging almost on a daily basis up to today in the social media, and we are very close friends. And beyond friendship, we know that if somebody needs any expertise from another or any new figure of anything, then it's ready there for you. And this is a wealth. This is a personal wealth. The second thing, which is most striking, is that we were raised to the Arabic school and the French-speaking school also, because there's a huge influence of Southern Europe in Algeria in particular, and in the Maghreb in general. And the way to expose things, the way to explain things, the pedagogic style is completely different in the US. It's another story. They go straight to the point and they don't need introductions. I remember the first time I had to write an essay. That was my first exam. I was invited by the professor at the end of the exam, and I remember she told me, so from where are you coming? Say, from Algeria. She said, oh, this is why you began by a long introduction and problematic. And I was very frustrated because I had my PhD already, and I was saying myself, she's giving me lessons on my major. I'm teaching this in my country. I thought, oh, no, this is the way it needs to be done. She says, yes, in other parts of the world, but here you need to write an abstract and you go straight to the point. And if I'm interested in what you are writing, then I will see the developments, but I don't need full introductions. It was striking for me, and it took me time to get used to this. And this mindset remained until today, and this is really something very, very, very important, at least for me, and I'm sure that the lucky ones who will make it to the Humphrey program will share probably the same feeling. So if you have
Raif,
yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I let all these cultural differences are fascinating. I want to come back to them. I was also wondering if you could talk a little bit about in detail about what the program consists of. We know that there's an academic portion of it, and there's also a professional portion. Can you give our audience kind of more details about what those components look like on the ground?
Yes. Unlike the Fulbright, for example, which is purely academic, or the IL International Leadership Visitor Program, which is mostly professional, the Humphrey is a perfect balance between academic and professional, in the sense that once there, you will begin by attending an American university which is specialized in the field that you would like to develop. And this comes through the application process, because you will be asked to choose a major and to develop a project, basically, and to defend this project. This is a big part of your selection criteria and process. And so you will be attending a series of modules that you will choose depending on what you want to develop. And of course, you will have to get exams in these modules exactly the same way as other students who paid for it. So I have a piece of advice for the students who will go there, inshallah. Some universities will ask you to choose between taking a course for credit or just sit in the course. And sit in the course meaning that you will be attending the course, but you are not obliged to go through the exams. Don't be tempted by this option, because getting these courses for credit is not only more motivating for you, because you will have to be in competition with other students, and this is quite rewarding, and you will learn far more than the curriculum of the module. But also afterwards, if you want to have a degree or carry on your studies and push it for a master or a PhD, these credits will be still valid and you can use them anytime you want. So this is for the academic part. For the professional part, you will be in charge of looking for an American-based institution that deals with your profession. This is quite challenging, because in the environment I grew in, I never had to do this, and everything was ready, and the university is looking for something for you. No, you will have to look for it yourself. You will have to make the contacts yourself. You will have to go through the interviews yourself. And at the beginning, it was quite frustrating, because it's not ready for me? Do I need to do something myself? Strange. But guess what? This process of looking for a job basically is also a training for you, and you will be able to use it afterwards, and it's as useful for you as the thing that you will learn in the field, rather at the university or in the workplace.
Thanks for that introduction, Raif. If you're just joining us now, we are talking about the Humphrey Fellowship program. This is a 10-month program we offer to mid-career professionals in the United States. That's both academic and practical. We have a question here, actually, from Tawfiq. Sorry, not from Tawfiq, from Enough DZ, as the person who is asking why the program is a non-degree program. I'll actually answer this one myself, since I work for the State Department. Essentially, we've got degree programs. We've got the Fulbright program, which is the master's program. We are working on a doctoral program, but for doctoral degrees, they don't cost a lot of money to begin with. So we have Education USA, which helps students find doctoral programs in the United States. In fact, many doctoral students get paid to work as assistants. So we've already got our degree programs, but this program is different, and it's non-degree because it's really targeting a different subset of people. It's targeting mid-career professionals. So it's people who already have experience in their career, and especially in the Algerian context, these are people who often already have 1, 2, and sometimes 3 degrees all the way up to the licence, masters, and doctorat. And so we want to have a program also for these people that is not degree, but it's really more based on experience, getting that practical experience, but also at the same time having that academic component. And so maybe along these lines, we can ask you, Raif, how did the experience that you had on the Humphrey program, how did that benefit you when you came back to Algeria to work?
Very interesting question. I go back to the question that was asked by the fellow. Actually, don't be categoric, don't be close in your judgment. I asked myself exactly the same question, and I was telling myself, my gosh, going to the US and having the opportunity to attend an American university, but coming back without a degree, what's the point? It's completely false for 2 reasons. The first one is that even during your Humphrey year, if you want to have a degree, then you can. And I have dozens of Humphrey fellows who were there with me, and they went for a degree and they got it. But to have a degree within 10 months, it means lots of sacrifices. This is quite difficult, but still feasible. I didn't do it. And when I came back, I had a certificate of attendance to the Humphrey program. Guess what? I have been recruited by the World Bank as an international expert a couple of months after this. And I had the equivalent of a PhD before. And I tried to make it to the World Bank, and I wasn't able to do it. Meaning 2 things. If you want a degree, you can have it either during your Humphrey year or after, because I had an MIT degree after. However, if what you're looking for is to boost your professional career, then the degree is not the most important thing. And if you have recruiters who know the value of an American university and a US-based institution, and then when you say that you are a Humphrey Fellow, you will have a huge advantage on the others. And this is my personal experience. It's not someone who told me. This is, I lived it.
Yeah, thanks for that answer. And it's interesting, it also kind of drives a little bit at a cultural difference, I think, that we have in the United States compared to, not just Algeria, but a lot of different places in the world where really degrees matter, but they don't matter as much as at least in our culture, as I think other people kind of place the importance on seeing, what kind of certificates and degrees people have. In the United States, our philosophy is much more about what you know and what you've learned and what experience you've had, because you learn so much, in my opinion, at least, you learn so much by doing, as well as what you learn, what you can absorb in a classroom. And along those lines, I want to drive into the kind of the stage, the experience that you had. Can you talk a little bit about where you did your professional development in the United States, and what you did, and what that experience was like, and what you learned from it?
Of course. I was in Colorado for the what they call the pre-academic period. This is where you learn English, and they check that you have solid basics in your major, and they try to select with you the best universities and the more focused institutions for your work experience. And then I've been to American University, Kogod Business School in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, I was specialized in finance and banking. And my objective was to go to New York, but it was a very, very difficult period. It was a crisis, and people were getting fired in the banks. You know, the banking workplace is very cyclical. And so in Washington, there's the IMF and the World Bank. I applied to the IMF. I wasn't selected. I lost. And then I applied to the World Bank, been through a very, very lengthy process, but I was experienced. And guess what? I worked as an intern for free at the World Bank. And after the Humphrey year, they told me, okay, would you like to work for us? I said, yes, this is a dream, but I need to go back to Algeria because I signed a commitment under which I need to come back to my country to develop the economy, etc., etc. They said, fine, we would like to recruit you in Algeria, but as an international consultant. And this is what happened. And so, to cut long story short, the Humphrey Fellowship allowed me to join the World Bank directly a few weeks after the ending of my Humphrey program. This is just amazing. I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise, or it would have taken me much longer.
Thanks for that explanation. I'm sure it must have been what a fascinating experience to go and work for the World Bank in Washington. So we talked a little bit about the program. We talked a little bit about after the program. Let's talk a bit about before the program. Can you tell us about what you were doing in Algiers when you applied for the program? And maybe recommendations you have for people who know they want to apply and what they should think about in terms of presenting themselves in the best light possible.
Yeah, just before the program, I was working as a senior executive of a private bank in Algeria. I had a lot of duties, and it was quite challenging for me to give up my work for almost 1 year to go to the US and then come back. Will my position still be waiting for me? Will Algeria be in the same situation? It was, I mean, so many question marks. But that was the good choice, and I've been through 3 stages of interviews and application. The first one was the most difficult. It was with a professional economist that was hired by the embassy to really challenge me on the topic that I had chosen. It was financial instruments at the time to foster development of the banking sector and the private sector in Algeria. It was quite innovative at the time. And so I had ready to have something ready, something strong to defend, because I had someone who knows all the technicalities, all the details, and I had to be ready. That was difficult and challenging. That was the first discussion with the professional. And then after, it's more of a selection to see what are your motivations and what do you think you will bring to your country when you come back? And so also you need to have clear ideas about this, because if you do something which is fulfilling and rewarding for you, but not useful for development of the country, it will not work. So you need to find a kind of combination between something that you would like to do and something which is useful for the country. And by chance, the country is needing so many things and was needing so many things at the time that it's quite easy to select something. But the selection was very competitive, because the level of English of the other candidates was very good. And we were a lot to apply, and it was fair competition. I hope, because I've been selected.
I was not here back in I guess it was 1999 probably, but I'm still in high school. But I'm sure it was a fair competition. But Raif, you're absolutely right. What we look for is really people who have kind of a vision and who are committed and have really thought about. I know I mentioned this whenever I do these interviews, but I've really thought about what this program is and how they plan to use it, and how they plan to use their experience and come back to Algeria and do something beneficial, do something great. That's what we're looking for more than anything else. And you mentioned English. You mentioned your English wasn't the best, and it doesn't surprise me that we still selected you. We get a lot of questions about English. And we have minimum English scores that are required for any program, because, listen, I mean, we're not going to send somebody to the United States to take classes in English if they speak no English. But that being said, we don't need somebody to be fluent. There is opportunities to take English classes before this particular program. And so much of the English you'll learn, especially the specialized vocabulary, you'll learn it from being in the environment. So, right, I'm sure you didn't know some of these advanced banking terms before you went, and then when you come back and you're just absorbed by them, you know them really well. So I encourage people, even if you're nervous about your English, you don't think you have the best English, to still apply, and of course, study. But don't just come in without studying English. Try to get your English better. But it's important, but not the most important thing that we look for. I want to ask you, go back to kind of the cultural differences, just because I think it's an interesting topic, and I'd like you to talk about kind of maybe just give us something that really shocked you, that really surprised you, kind of. A culture shock maybe that you had, as an Algerian in the American context.
Actually, I had it twice. When I went to the US and when I came back, they call this the counter-cultural shock. So in the US, I had a very, very funny story. When I arrived, we had a master students that was looking after us, helping us find a place in the lodging and furnitures, etc. So she was helping in such a way. She made everything easy for us. So at the end of this period, when I was still settling down, I told myself, okay, I will at least invite her to the restaurant to say thank you. And so I took my my economies, and I called her to say, hey, well, would you allow me just to invite you to a restaurant to say thank you? She says, okay, fine. Of course, but no need to go to a restaurant. Let's just go to McDonald's. No, come on. You did so much for us. I don't want to go to McDonald's. I want a fancy restaurant. She said, no. McDonald's is fine. I love it. Okay. So we've been to McDonald's. We discussed, everything was great, and then I was getting ready to pay, and she says, what are you doing? I say, I invited you. I'm paying for you. She says, no, you don't need to do this. I thought, come on. I must do this. Not only I need, but I must do this. She says, why? So because you are with me. I invited you, and I'm a man. She was shocked. She was looking at me as if I was an alien, and I didn't understand. I told myself, she's crazy. What's happening with her? And then months later, I understood that I can do it, but not because I'm obliged to do so, not because I'm a man and she's a lady. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like this. It's a completely different environment. When I came back to Algeria after 1 year, I still had the American mindset, and so I was driving, and in Algeria the speed limit was 80 in the motorway, but everyone drives at 100 because you have these 20 kilometers per hour tolerance. And so I was I was driving at 80, and I was with my brother. He remained silent, and then he told me, what's happening with you? I told him, well, what's happening? He told me, you are sick or something. I said, no. Why? He said, you are driving at 80. I said, yes. You know, there's a sign there. It says 80 rule of law. He says, hey guy, you're not in the US anymore. You're in Algeria. Come on. We're in a hurry. This is just an example. I had hundreds like this, but what I want to say is that there's a first cultural shock when you get there. Of course, this is human. The environments are so much different. There's no one good environment and one bad environment. No, they are just different. And when you come back, guys, get ready to have the same cultural shock backwise. And so you need to prepare for that also.
Thanks for that. It's funny because I feel like I've had those two cultural shocks here in Algeria. That when I first arrived, people would invite me for meals, and I took me a while to understand when you hear that word invité, that means they are paying. And one time I think maybe I paid for mine or something, and it was insulting for the person who invited me. And then of course, you know, driving. That's a culture shock for pretty much all of us Americans, at least on the highway when there's just, you know, the cars are basically on top of one another. I want to ask you another question about your experience in the United States, because so many of our exchange program participants say that their programs are fabulous. They learn a ton of programs, and they learn almost as much from everything that they do outside the program. So I'm wondering what your experience was like outside of the internship, outside of the classroom. You know, what sorts of activities or groups or extracurriculars did you benefit from while you were there?
Actually, that was almost the most interesting part of the story because of two things. I am a musician myself, and I had the opportunity to get myself a wonderful guitar, and we had a band at the university, and we were playing. Sometimes we were doing some gigs in different parts of Washington. That was quite an experience. What I want to say is that we all have hobbies, we all have passions, and just make sure when you'll be in the US not to focus just on your professional activities or your academic activities, because you have such an opportunity to develop or the talents that you must have that you know or don't know. And it's so easy to fulfill this part of yourself. Don't neglect it. This is very important for your overall balance. The second thing that was very interesting for me, it's not to discover the American people, because as I told you, there are so many different nationalities in the typical American universities that you get to know so many different races and get used to the differences that we have. And sometimes you discover that we have stereotypes and we don't know, that we have prejudices and we don't know, that we are wrong about so many things. And on a daily basis, you get these free lessons that remains forever, and that makes you a more tolerant person than a better person. This is what I wanted to share.
Thanks. That's a really beautiful answer. Thank you. Thank you for that. We've got a question that I'll take. It's from Mokhfin, who says he's tried this opportunity before, he's applied before, but not selected. And just, wants to know why. So, first of all, let me say that we receive a lot of applications for our exchange programs, and we have limited slots. So don't take it personally. The majority of people who apply don't get accepted, or at least don't get accepted, I should say, the first time that they apply. I know many people who have applied multiple times. Each year they've improved their applications, and each year they've had more experience, and then they've got accepted in the future. But I would say, going back to what I said before, I think at the end of the day, when the tip I give to people for writing an application or doing an interview, it's really the same thought process that I think you have to go through. And you just have to remember that me or Salman or whoever's reading your application, we're reading dozens of applications. We're seeing dozens of mukhfins and dozens of people who have the same profession as you, and maybe even the same goals. And so you really have to spend a lot of time thinking long and hard about how to differentiate yourself from the pack, how to get your application to stand out when we've read 10 of them already and it's getting late and we're tired. You have to come up with the way, and it's all about the essays. I'll tell you, I'll take a peek at your grades, and I don't look at your certificates, so you can include them if you want, but I don't have time to look at everyone's certificates. I will take a look at your grades, but briefly, what I spend a lot of time on when I read these applications are your essays. And it's not enough to say, I'd love to do this program because I want to improve my skills and I want to come back and I want to be the best engineer or the best teacher or the best whatever else, because everyone is saying that. So what you really have to think about is, I want to do this program because, I feel like in my 5 or 7 or 10 years, I'm doing good in my job, but there's this gap. I really don't understand. I'm an architect, but I really don't understand how to do a very specific form of urban planning that I know we need in Algeria, because Algiers is traffic is terrible, it's brimming with people, and we need to figure out how to pack more people into. I'm just making this up, by the way. I have no idea about architecture, but this is something that's very specific that they do well in America. And here's a couple of different firms in America that would be great for an internship. And I'm going to go and do that. And I'm going to come back, either continue my firm or apply for a job at the ministry, or I don't know. But that kind of specificity, when you're reading something like that, when I'm reading something like that, it stands out. And that's the kind of tips that I want to give to you guys to really think about that. And it takes time. And have people, when I write essays, I just applied for a program, a professional development program. I gave my essays to my wife, who's sitting next to me, and 6 other people to read, my father, other colleagues. Get people to help you out with them and really try to make your essays as quick as possible. So that's my little spiel on applying to the program. I want to turn it back over to our guest, maybe for a final question or second to last question, maybe. And so you had such an interesting experience at all these different universities. Been an American university. I think you said you're in French university. You obviously studied your licence, master's, and doctorat ici in Algeria. How would you kind of describe the differences between American universities and other universities in North Africa or other places in the world?
Thanks for the question. Very important. Two things. The way, because I'm teaching also in Algeria and in an American university, and I need to switch my pedagogy and my mindset. When we study in Algeria, it's the education system is very close to the French education system, meaning that you have a teacher. The teacher is here. There's a course. You need to write his reading, and then you need to learn what you wrote to understand it. You come back and you write, and he's saying you need to structure something. And if you restitute what you have learned in a correct way, then you get a good grade. If not, you need to repeat again. It doesn't work at all like this. The teacher in the American universities, and this is valid for University of Colorado or American University or Massachusetts Institute of Technology, same way. The teacher is not here to teach. The teacher is here, the professor is here to coach. He is here to put you in an environment that allows you to interact with other students. Most of the work, the academic work, is not individual, it's collective. You need to work with people you don't know, with people from other countries, with people you won't be able to meet with a lot, and you need to prepare something together. The grades are not the same. We used to be grade from 1 to 20. And if you have more than 10, then it's okay. It doesn't work like this. And so even the evaluation system is very different. In Algeria or in France or many other countries, you have what we call les interrogations, so midterm exams, and we have les examens, so final exams. And usually the weight of the final exam and the overall average is very important. So if you miss it, you're done. We'll see you next year. So in the MIT, it doesn't work like this. There are 5 ways of evaluating the students. The one is permanent, meaning that during each course, you need to answer a couple of questions relating to the discussion that is ongoing in class. It's not to check that you are awake, but it's to see that you are focused. And guess what? The weight of these permanent evaluation in the overall average is the highest, the most important. And then you have works that you need to prepare with a colleague, with a classmate, on twice per month. You need to present something. And then there's the exam, okay, midterm exam. Then there's the final exam. And then there's a work that you need to prepare yourself and present. Guess what? The weight is reversely proportional, meaning that the final exam accounts for 10% only of the overall average. This is very, very important because it rewards the permanent effort the permanent work rather than the one-shot exam, which is a dummy variable, because either you are in good shape and you are lucky enough to have the right answers in your mind, or you come back 1 year later. So this is a huge difference. And I think that it's a more efficient system than the other systems I know, because there are more interactions between different students and between the students and the teacher. Even if we have the feeling that the teacher is having less duties than in our countries where he's talking for 2 hours and you're listening. No, you will be doing the talk and he will be listening. And this is very interesting approach.
Thank you for that. It's such an interesting topic. I was actually just eating lunch today with English teachers, English professors from, I think, 9 different universities here in Algiers. We're just having the same conversation about, you know, because how to teach English in a way where the English teacher is more the coach, as we move more to kind of hybrid learning and try to enhance English. Because one of the things we're trying to do with the Ministry of Higher Education is massively enhance the amount of English that every student gets going through university. So we were just talking about this very topic. Very interesting and very timely. It is 45 minutes past the hour, so we are going to wrap things up here. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I know there are a lot of questions in the chat, as per usual, about the very specific requirements. Can I apply if I do this? Can I apply if I do that? I encourage everyone to go to the website where we've got all the requirements, all the different fields. It's very clear on there. These are standardized programs, so unfortunately we can't make exceptions to that here in Algiers. But please do check out the website for that information. As you all know, we do these chats every single week, usually at this time on Wednesdays. We will not do a chat next week because of Eid. I want to wish everybody in advance a very happy and joyous Eid. We will be back on the 28th of July for a Let's Chat with a U.S. diplomat who's here working in Algiers, who has a disability and who's traveled all over the world with a disability. And we'll talk about disability rights in America. So please join us for that chat on the 28th. Raif, thank you so much for this. This was fun and interesting.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure talking to you. Do you have any final last words or recommendations or thoughts for our audience before we sign off?
Yeah, don't give up. Never give up. For those who will not be selected, don't say, I tried, it's not for me, I should look for something else. No, keep on, keep on, keep on, keep on. You will get something from it. And even if you're not selected, the second time you come stronger. The third time you will be even stronger and like this. Okay, so never give up and keep up trying, because while trying, you're getting better. That's the most important thing.
I couldn't agree more. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our friends in the audience who joined us today. And we'll see you next time on the 28th.
Thank you.